Good morning, yeah, it's still morning time here in Yerushalyim, HaKodesh. Isru Chag, Tafshin Ayin Ches. Isru Chag of Shavuos, not of Pesach or of Sukkot, but Isru Chag of Shavuos. And we're here in Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi, learning Gemora. This is Rabbi Levitz's Shir, and I'm taking over temporarily. And we're on Daf Mem Vav on the base. Machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Maybe it's worthwhile just doing some review. What do you say? Would you like to review this? What the discussion is, what the ramifications of the Machlokas Rav and Shmuel is, what we've been discussing the last 2 or 3 days, correct? Let's see, where should we begin? Probably worthwhile. Should we back up to the actual case on Amid Aleph? Yeah. I think so, yeah. The it one. That is 5 lines up from the bottom of the page, right in the middle of the Gemora lines. Everything started off very great, very good. The person made a sale of a shore to his friend, right? What could be better than that, right? Like business is going on as usual, right? When business is going on, people are happy, right?
Okay. What's the plan?
Turned out that this shore that he had just bought turns out to be a goring ox, a violent, aggressive animal. Something he obviously didn't bargain for.
Did the seller have to reveal that? Full disclosure, what they say?
So that'll be part of the Machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Will this be considered to be a mecca closer now? Right? If you want this animal to be a pet for your petting zoo, turns out to be a goring ox. It's not very matim for your business enterprise.
I've been assuming that the seller didn't know. He said it's found to be a goring.
So the question is, who found it out to be goring? We'll see from his statement that with his claim that he wanted. That he was, we'll see from one of his claims that obviously he was assuming, I would think we could say that he knew what it was based on one of the claims he's going to be making. Let's hold on to that for a minute or two. Okay. Let's continue on. Right? Right, so again, so it depends who found it to be a nightmare. I mean, if it was a complete discovery, so that would lend to the pshat that you want to say, that it was a complete surprise to everyone, both the seller and the buyer, right? But I'm not sure if it's mukrach. I don't know if you have to say equivocally that it was a surprise to the seller.
I'll give you a radical point of view.
Yeah.
It was only found out when there was another animal.
Mm-hmm.
The other animal found out that this wasn't a very nice.
By then it was too late.
A nice neighbor to have.
Yeah, not a nice neighbor.
So that could be also wasn't the buyer or seller. When there was no other animal present, he was very docile, very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as another animal came, he riled up.
Right, but even if
did that ever enter into the?
Well, because I'll tell you like this: even if it happened once, it wouldn't make him a nadkan. A nadkan is in the context of that it's a mu'id. It's a mu'id. Why? But that's a good point. Why did the Gemora say nimsa mu'id?
Who found it?
No, there's a difference between a tam and a mu'id, right? Tam, I mean, your tam has not done any goring, and it's assumed to be basically docile.
It
right?
says not
Natkan. Didn't say nimsa mu'id.
Right.
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 So.
So you're asking why didn't it say
Yeah. I mean, if it said mu'id, so see, I got it. If it was nimsa mu'id, then we would say I would imagine the base would say that the seller could not claim that he did not know it was a not because muad, and I don't know better than that. The buyer could not claim that he didn't know it was a muad. A muad is already going to have a call from based in, and it's going to be known that this cow is a dangerous animal.
Yeah, but it didn't say when it was found.
We'll see from the claims that it was found in the hands
And
after the sale.
You finished the sale?
Signed, sealed, and delivered, and the money's in the hand of the seller.
Yeah, but what I had said earlier makes sechel that all of a sudden another animal came along, and that's when he gored him because. So until it was a quiet environment, nobody knew his bad habits. Let's say.
Right.
They knew it, but it didn't manifest itself.
Right. So if it was a muad, right? Well,
And everybody
Did it have the sign of I'm a muad count?
no, but we can assume that people would know about such an animal.
Does a muad animal look the same as any other animal? I think so.
Has a spark in its eyes, you know.
Well, I don't look at the eyes of it.
It says in the commentary, after completing the transaction, the buyer discovers that the ox is of violent nature and actually committed a goring before the sale.
A goring.
Right.
Who's he's reading that the same specific commentary?
Hey, Goring's on the
Theory,
muad.
Rashbam
Rashba.
to Bava Basra 92a. And
Rashba, Ritva. So you have to see the Lashonis inside. It could be, I'm just trying to make a point that it didn't say it's Nimsa Muad. Nimsa Nadcha.
Right.
Meaning found to be, at least according to the Rashba and the Ritva, that he was at least gored once previously. Right? If it was a Muad, then I think it would be more of a case for the buyer that he could claim that this is a Mecca Kos, and maybe even Shmuel would be in agreement because, or he could turn the tables. He could turn the table and say no. If he bought such an animal that's known to be a muad, he must have known it was a muad, and he has to accept the fact that it's a muad.
Right.
He can't claim that he didn't know when he wanted it for run.
My problem is, how is knowledge of a muad publicized? How is it made known?
There's a basin. There's a basin that declares it to be a muad.
Does a Chaim Yaakov cow is a muad and everybody has to be aware?
Yes. Well, I think it's passive because what happens in Beis Din, we assume it's going to get. What happens to people become aware of what happens in Beis Din. There are witnesses there. There's usually done in a public setting, right? People will talk about Amanka's cow was brought for the third time up on charges, not on charges. He was testified to have gored 3 times.
Do it?
Right.
It's not.
But what if the seller comes off the boat, he comes walking into town, and he's a newcomer, and he just happens to...
They took advantage of it.
Yeah,
Well, not only that, but
that's what happened.
there's the fact that a muad is chayav misa.
Right?
So we have to assume that this animal ran away to the swamp.
If it's a muad, in fact, right.
So if it's a muad, then it ran away to the swamp, and now somehow it came back. Right? It came back and started grazing in the field, unbeknownst to anybody. Because as soon as they know about it, they're going to go kill it.
Yeah, but you had the sale that took place, so the person who was selling it sold it to somebody.
Right, so what I'm saying is I'm supporting your point that it could be the seller doesn't know,
Right.
because he comes and he says, okay, I just bought this herd, and mixed into this herd is this muad,
Right.
which nobody knows is there because it had run away to the swamp,
Right.
and now he sells it unbeknownst.
Right.
And then the buyer, like you said, sees the thing is attacking the other cows or whatever, for however reason,
So
and they then make the association. They say, "Oh, this is the same cow that was declared a muad."
right. So then, if that's the case, if the seller is the type that he's a wholesaler, right? He's a wholesaler. As the Gemora will bring down a specific case of a person who's a wholesaler and he sold a certain cow that had no teeth. Right? He sold a cow that had no teeth, and there was a certain apotropos for some Yisomim, and they were based in it set up a representative for the Yeshiva, with power of attorney to do business for them. So he bought this cow, right? So the apotropos handed the cow over to a cowboy, right? The cowboy put it into the herd, right? And just like all the other cows, he would throw it hay every day. And within 3 or 4 days, he noticed the cow is dead. Right? He says, what's going on with the cow? Apotropos, the representative of the Yeshiva, comes in and says, what's going on with the cow? The boy says it's dead. He says, what did you do with it? I didn't do anything. What do you mean you didn't do anything? How did it die? It died of starvation. How did it die of starvation? I don't know. I fed it like every other cow.
No teeth.
No teeth. So they discovered no teeth. So they go, Apotropos goes back to the seller and he says, what did you sell this cow? What did you sell me? So we saw a cow. So this cow had no teeth.
Defective.
I don't know, I bought the herd. I bought 100 cows that day. I didn't look every cow in the mouth to see if it has teeth. You would buy it. Why didn't you check and see if it had teeth? Right? So I wasn't concerned. I just handed it over to the cowboy. Right? So we go to the cowboy and says, why didn't you look at the cow and see if it had teeth? He says, the cow says, I don't look all I assume a person's giving me a cow, it's going to be able to eat the hay. I don't have to look at the cow to see if it has teeth. So it goes round and round and round. And so that's the case if the person's a seller, is a wholesaler. So he has a claim. I buy herds. I don't buy individual cows.
I didn't need to look.
Right. You can't hold me responsible for not looking. That's why I do business. Right? You want to buy an individual cow from me, and I want to sell you an individual cow.
You have to check it out.
You check it out. You check it out. But here it's one-on-one, and we can assume that the seller here is not a wholesaler; he's an individual seller, and he should really know the nature of his cow that he's selling. And the buyer says, "No, hold on a second, that he didn't bargain for this. This whole thing is a mekaktos, right? It's a false sale. I didn't get what I bargained for, right?" So that's the maklokas Rav and Shmuel. Let's go back to the Gemora. So the Nimsa Natkan, very good. He brings down the Rishra and the Rajva that it was not a muad, right? Because the muad may possibly strengthen the claim of the seller, right? That the buyer should have a responsibility if it's a muad to have realized that in fact it was a muad. So we have an Nimsa. So Rav Omer Hari Ze Mekaktos. Rav says that's a Mekaktos. Shmuel Omer Yochel Shomer Lo L'Shchita Machirosa Lo. Shmuel says no, that the seller has a right to claim, I sold it to you for meat, for shchita, for slaughter, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a nag. Okay, let's continue on. Who would like to read the Gemora? Vavar, you like to read the Gemora? Continue on here.
Okay,
That's the third line. V'amai. Yeah.
V'amai, the Zivin,
the Raji.
okay, I'm not familiar with the ceremony.
Why should we allow these claims to be made? Just you don't have to enter into a maklokas Rav and Shmuel. Nixie, just take a look. Nixie, take a look. Igavra the Zavi. Yeah, from Chazan. Take a look. Igavra, if this person buys for Raja, if this person, meaning the buyer, does this person buy for plowing? Raja is plowing, right? So you don't have to make any assumptions and have a maklokas Rav and Shmuel. We have a very easy way of finding out. Just take a look at what kind of animals this person buys. Does he buy meat animals or plowing animals? And if he buys meat animals, then we can assume that he bought it for meat, right? And then the claim of the seller would be established, and the claim of the buyer that is mekaktos wouldn't exist. Because we say, well, you're a guy that buys for plowing. But if he's for plowing, then it would be a mekaktos. So the Gemora continues on. Igaver. Yeah, that.
Oh, dummy.
Actually, the third line up from the bottom. Amai nixi I gavra dezavin l'rad. Yeah. I gavra dezavin l'nichsasya. Let's just take a look. If the person who bought it for plowing radia, I gavra dezavin l'nichsasya. If the person who bought it for shchita.
So then the Gemora says, "Kol tzricha, the gavra dezavin may allow nich zay idami ridley ridley the idami
So it's like this. It says so. The Gemora wanted to say, why should it be that you have a machlokas rubbish? Well, let's just take a look and see what kind of person bought this animal. If he was a person that bought for plowing, if he was a person that bought it for meat. No, you can't say that. Sricha, you need it for a case that the gavra dezavin l'hai l'hai. You're talking about a guy, this person buys both for meat and for farming. So there's no proof that he bought it for this reason or that. He always buys it for, right,
one or the other.
one or the other. Both. Actually, for both.
He always buys it for
both.
both.
Both. And there's no proof for what he bought this time. So then, the Gemara suggests, Nixi Yidimei the Raja. The Raja, Yidimei the Nixi. Let's take a look. How much would look at the sales price? The sales price will determine our question for us. If it was sold for a sales price which was acceptable for plowing, then it was sold for plowing. If it's a sales price that was acceptable for shchita, then it was sold for
So
shchita.
there's a difference in price between a meat animal and a working animal.
Yes, yes. I don't know which is more. I'm not sure.
I would think the working
I think
animal.
we can say that a plowing animal is more,
Yeah,
because it's going to say the price of meat went up.
right. Usually if it's already being sold for slaughter, it probably doesn't have much of a,
Future potential.
right, end of the line. So no, load shooting, you can't do that because it's not possible to tell, why? Because what happened? The market conditions changed.
The Ogden, the Yeshiva, the dummy, midday,
Ogden,
Akira.
the Oiker Bisra, the Koi, the Demei Radia. No, you need it for a case, the Uker Bisra, that it appreciated. Bisra, it appreciated the value of meat, the Koi, the Demei Radia, and it became high like the price of plowing. Right? There was an inflation. There was a market condition which is called the increase in slaughtered meat to be as high as the price of an animal that's sold.
The plowing is always, then that from here, let's move on, that plowing is higher, except in the case where there's a shortage of meat, so the price of meat went up.
Okay, so Amri. So now we say as follows.
Lekor, Ashtu, Hume, Mine, Yash Kile, the Torah, Mezuzah.
So this is another attempt at the Gemora to reach a practical solution for the question, the machlokas between the buyer and seller. It's trying to say, so let's say if there's no money, meaning the best thing we can do is let's just start all over again. Let the seller give back the money to the buyer. Let the seller give back the money to the buyer, and let the buyer, right, give back the cow to the seller. Give him a refund. Just bottleneck up. Bottleneck, just start everything as it used to be.
Validate the whole transaction.
Yeah, validate it. Why don't we do that? and you'll just give back the money to the original owner, and the cow will go back to its original owner, right? The seller. So he says no.
The Amayin Shay, maybe because people say
there's a popular saying, the Amayin. People say, Mori that from the one who has it in his reshus, Ari upper, meaning let him be paid even upper, even dirt. Meaning, if someone owes you something and you can't get the cash out of him, take anything you can get from him.
So we're not going to validate cancel the transaction, because there's a popular saying, if you want to get something out of from a transaction, you get that even right or wrong.
Collection agencies, he's not paying his debt, so they'll take everything he owns. Just take everything he can get.
That's better than canceling the debt?
Well, because the only way you could cancel it if you get cash back for what you gave. But if there's no cash left in what you gave, so what are you going to do?
Well, there's two cases here. Mm-hmm. One case is that we say it's a mechaptos.
Right.
In which case, the buyer gives back the cow, and the seller gives back the money.
Right. That's the way it should be. Right.
The second case is that it's not a mechaptos, and the buyer keeps the cow, and the seller keeps the money. So now what they're saying is, if the seller doesn't have money, then both cases are the same. The buyer keeps the cow, and the seller keeps the money.
Right.
So there's no machlokas.
So that's
what it's trying to say here.
Right.
And now it's going to answer and say, no, here's an answer.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we have three cases here where it does the same thing. It says, let's say there's no machlokas,
right.
Those are the following conditions, right. And it says no because, and it gives an answer.
Right.
So this is the third attempt.
And why is everybody trying so hard to find a solution? There shouldn't be any machlokas. Why is that so?
Rather than say that there's an open machlokas between Rav and Shmuel, it's preferable to say what do we say, to set up an ikimta, to set up a special case where both Rav and Shmuel could agree on. But we're going to find, after 3 attempts, it's not possible. We're always coming back to a case where it wasn't that way. I mean, the Gemora is forcing us to learn the machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Oh, so the Gemora says, "Lo tzrika deika l'shtomim b'nimei." That you say that there is in fact money that the seller has what to pay back to the buyer. In which case, the buyer wants to return the cow, and the seller wants to keep the money. So what are you going to do in that case? How are you going to pass in that case? In a case where there's no way to move, the buyer wants to keep the money that they got from the buyer wants to return the cow that he got from the seller, and the seller insists on keeping the money that he got from the buyer. What are you going to do about that case?
If he insists, does that imply that he knew that it was a mood?
This is a claim. He's making a claim. The fact is, no one's disagreeing. The fact is that it is a non-claim. However, the seller is claiming that I sold it to you on condition that you were going to slaughter it, so it shouldn't be a claim now. You can't claim now that you wanted it for plowing, right? In which case, you could conceivably demand your money back. But I'm claiming that you wanted it for slaughter, in which case you don't have a claim to get your money back. So when you're dealing with this situation where there is money and the cow still exists, right? So
it's a difference of opinion.
Rav and Shmuel, right?
So the footnote here says there's a chiddush here that the seller cannot force the buyer to keep the cow. Because he can't say, I have to give you value, right, one way or the other, so I'll give you the cow as the value. You can't have the money. the Kiddush is he can't say that. If he has the money, he has to give the money.
Really? Well, that would only be if we're passing like Rob.
Right, but it's a general principle in any case where we establish that somebody owes somebody, and there's a property and there's money,
Right.
that the one who owes cannot force the one who he owes to take the property. That's like a general principle, a general Kiddush from this.
Oh, so now we have to understand the machlokas. Now that we've tried to avoid the machlokas Rav and Shmuel, now we have to try and understand the machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Rav owners, the fourth line, the beginning of the fourth line is the Gemora.
Rav Omar, Harei Zeh Mekach Ta'os, Azil V'Isar Ruba, Ruba V'Yinshe Yibei Livni. So Rav said, this is it's a place where there was a mistake. Go and Tara Ruba. Go and what's the Ruba?
Zeal Basar Ruba. Go after Zeal Basar. Go after Ruba. Go after the majority. Right? Rob is making two statements. First of all, it is a Mekach Tos. Okay, fine. And what's going to tell us that there's a Mekach Tos? The Rove is going to tell us that it's a Mekach Tos. Why? Because Rove, people, Zeal Basar Ruba, Ruba Inchi. The Radia. Go after the majority, and the majority is going to say that most people buy for plowing purposes, right? So a natkan is not going to be a aggressive ox. Is not going to be very tame enough to plow. That's the statement of Ra. In contrast, you have Shmuel.
What is his name?
The Raja for plowing, they buy for plowing.
Shmuel Omer Yochol Sheyomar Lo V'Shkite Mechira Sabla. He could say, I sold to you for stolen. Hello, as Lina B'Tar Ruba. He has on the B'Tar Ruba Surah. So, but Shmuel could say that I sold it for Shkita. Hello, as Lina B'Tar Ruba. And did not take it? B'Tar Ruba.
Right. We don't go after the majority. Right? He'll make a claim that he sold it for shkita, and we're not going to go after the majority, right? Because that's by ki azlinin basar ruba ki. When azlinin do we go after the rove? When do we go after the majority? The surah. When do we go after the rove? That's only in Isser, meaning you have Isser v'heter. You have the questions of what's permissible, what's not permissible. So you have the rove which will tell us the halacha, right? For example, when you have 3 pieces of meat, 2 were kosher and 1 was treif, non-kosher meat, and the non-kosher meat fell into the 2 other pieces of kosher meat, and they're all nondescript. You can't tell the difference between any of the 3 pieces of meat.
We only go after the rove and the dover of Isra.
Over Isra. Momon, in cases of monetary doubts,
we not go over the majority.
Ella, what do we do in that case? Momon, what do we do? When it comes to Momon,
he can do it all.
Right. We want to take the money from your pocket, we have to bring proof that it's not yours to do that. Okay, so that's basically, this is now the culmination of the statement of the Gemora in terms of Rav's Shita, Rav's opinion, and Shmuel's Shita. So it basically boils down to a question as to whether or not you go Basar Roiv, right, in Momen or not. According to Rav, we are going in Basar Roiv in cases of Momenus as well, not just Basar, but also for Momenus. You also go after Rov. Going to Shmuel, you do not go in Momenus after Rov. Only by Isser you have to Rov. Rather, the general rule by monetary questions is a most significant period of Orion.
Is that the standard?
Yes. Usually the halakha, and the halakha is usually like Shmuel, not like Rav, except there's a few cases. So that's what we have here so far, right? A Rov, and that's not going to be a proof in monetary cases that you'll take the money here, in this case, out of the seller's pocket and give it back to the buyer.
So we have Indian of road, we have an Indian of monetary situations, and Indian of non-monetary situations.
Right.
So all so the three elements or four?
In all of
Three elements?
Four. The other one is Chamotzi Mechavira.
that's another.
We have Rov, we have Chamotzi, we have money, and we have ritual.
So I could ask you a question. Let's say the Erev, you have an Erev Shabbos, right? Rov of the time the Erev is intact.
There is, I come across it quite often. We have checked in Pennsylvania, they check the area for the Chagim, let's say the Shavuos, and then a week after Shavuos, this coming Shabbos, people come up and let's check the area. We only start checking at the beginning of the summer. So there's some people who hold, well, it was for 2-3 weeks was checked and it was all right. So then we would continue, and others saying, let's check. We're not going to follow at the area of discussion. So that's a valid difference of opinion. Some people carry something about.
Well, okay, that's but the question is, can you be summed on Rov? Let's say 360 days of the year, the area was always intact.
The criteria that we use in this situation, if unless there was a big storm and wind and things like that, if it was normal conditions, why should we say that the area was damaged, the area was down, the area was in? But there's some people who want to hire much regular, they say, no matter what happens the whole year, we want to have it checked.
But that's interesting, because in Los Angeles, I would say what you're saying is true, that it's 360 days out of the year. So that's what the is good.
Right.
Nevertheless, they have a website that tells you whether the Arab is good or not, and they advise people to check every Shabbos. Before Shabbos, check the website, see if it's good.
Is there someone actually checking the Erev to see if
They
it's
check
okay?
the Arab and they post to the website if it's not
Right.
good.
Right. So here, because you have something here, even though it might be Rov of the time, it may be intact, but here you have something that you can't rely on a Rov, even though that in this case it's probably, like we're talking about carrying on Shabbos and Yom Tov, that's Isser, it's not Romanus, it's Isser.
It's Hulu Shabbos.
It's Hulu Shabbos. So this is something that you can check and see. You can't be certain on the Rov if you can check and see. If the meat, right? You have the case of the 3 pieces of meat. If the non-kosher meat was decidedly different than the 2 kosher meats, you can't say that the 2 kosher meats that are mevatel the non-kosher meat parole, because you can see it. It's nicker. It's obvious. You can't close your eyes to the facts. The only time you can serve on roll is if it's not evident, not obvious. So whether the erev is up or down is something which is obvious. All you have to do is go around and check.